Previously on Algoa FM Breakfast.
It's a new day.
Indeed, it is 7:40 right now.
And the month comes to an end, and as it turns out, Friday, tomorrow, the 1st of September, it marks the start of the African Icons Invitational. It's an exciting series of fun mountain bike rides along the Garden Route. And to tell us more, we have the founder of the African Icons Invitational, MPC, Rory Steyn, on the line. Morning, Rory. How's it going?
Good morning. Who am I speaking to? Charlie. Who's there on the line?
It's Charlie speaking.
Good morning to you and good morning to everyone listening.
Listen, Rory, before we get into the African Icons Invitational, let's talk about you. Now, our producer, Corndog Cornelius, has given us a few Corndog. He's given us a few points about you, Rory. Number one, have a listen to this. You were Nelson Mandela's personal bodyguard. Okay. Number two, you're a security advisor for top events and sporting teams. You ran marathons on all 7 continents. And your son Kyle has been selected to represent Scotland at this year's Rugby World Cup. What a colourful event. A colourful life you have.
Yeah, and a very privileged one, Charlie, no question.
Special, eh? Listen, the most important question we have for you, Rory. In the game between Scotland and South Africa, who are you shouting for?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
It's a question that I get asked a lot, and the reality is, guys, that my blood will always be green, but it's very difficult to shout against a team that your son is playing for. So I'm going to probably wear a Springbok shirt with my kilt. And just may the best team win.
Okay.
Boys, whatever we think and wherever our loyalties lie, if you love rugby, you've got to admit that Scotland are playing some fantastic football at the moment, and they're a joy to watch. It's a pleasure to watch them. So I think they've got a lot more support than just, the Scots, the 5 million Scots in Scotland, because of the way that they're playing and the way they express themselves. I mean, if you watched it last weekend and you watched that drivel dished up by England, and then you watched, Scotland, it was just chalk and cheese, man.
Yeah, but I mean, did you see how well South Africa played last weekend? I'm just saying.
Absolutely, just bullied those All Blacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rory, can you give us some background info on the African Icons Invitational? What is it, and how did it start?
So the genesis of the event is something that I stole lock, stock and barrel, and no apologies for, since we're talking about countries. Steve Waugh, the former Australian cricket captain, he has a cycle event called the Captain's Ride in Australia, and he asked me to come out and be one of the speakers for that ride. So typically, you get people to sign up, and you invite well-known sporting legends so that people would like to ride a bicycle alongside. And as you go from town to town through on that ride, it was from Sydney right up north to a seaside resort called Byron Bay. And as you stop over, one of those guys said you had like a Mick Doohan, and you had Matthew Hayden and people like that come and speak. And he asked me to be one of those speakers. And then after the third one of those, he said, well, why don't you do something like that in South Africa? And I said to him, you know what, you're not the first one to say that, because my late business partner made the same comment. So when you get to a certain age, gents, and you know that you need to start giving back to society, if you'll excuse the cliche, I thought, the easy thing would be to raise money for example, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, and that's a very worthy cause. But they get a lot of support from big corporates. And I thought, as a former cop, I was a cop for nearly 18 years, I'd like to give back to my own. Because I remember when I was a young police officer, and you weren't paid very much, there were like 3 line items on your pay slip. There was salary, PAYE, you got to pay the tax man, and then there was widow and orphans fund, and R2 a month, compulsory deduction. And I used to wonder, where's that R2 going? And then I had my first kid, happens to be the one who's playing for Scotland now. And I thought, that's probably a good thing that I've been paying this $2 a month every month off my salary, because if something happened to me in the line of duty, then at least my wife and my child would be taken care of, because there is such an organization as the Widow and Orphans Fund. So all we do, guys, is we use cycling as a fundraiser, and we just give the money to the Widow and Orphans Fund and to the SAPSET, which is the South African Police Service Education Trust. So the first looks after those families who lose their breadwinner when a violent criminal kills a police officer, and the second one looks after the education of those orphans. And all we do is we use cycling events such as the ones we're doing down your way this weekend as the vehicle. So it's called the African Icons Invitational because we invite sporting icons like a Brayton Paulser, like a Skara Ntubeli, like a Nick Bester, to come and volunteer their time. And no one has ever said no except one individual. You shall remain nameless. There's always one, right? Normally the guys are only too happy to offer their time because, people raise funds for various causes. Like we have rhino poaching and we have all kinds of causes, and they're great. But who looks after the kids of these police officers? And gents, it doesn't matter what we think of the performance of our police, because trust me, I can bitch and moan with the best of them when it comes to some of the standard of service delivery. But it's never the fault of that little boy or girl if their mom or dad is, as I said, killed at the hands of a violent criminal. And that's what we do. So we invite sporting icons, ordinary weekend warriors sign up to ride alongside those guys, listen to their stories, chat to them, pick their brains, and then we give the money to those two organizations. It's as simple as that.
Rory, just one more question. Where can people enter or get more information about the event?
Okay, so the easiest is obviously our website, which is African Icons, plural, African Icons, one word, .org.za. And you'll see all the information there. But very quickly, we're riding tomorrow afternoon. That's Friday afternoon, the 1st. We're riding in Mossel Bay. And they're 2-hour rides, guys. And they are rides. It's not a race. I must stress that. We have a fast group. We understand that there's certain people that want to race and want to ride hard. That's fine. We'll cater for them. But then we'll also cater for the person who just wants to ride in a chilled fashion. And that includes the ladies. Ladies, please don't think that you can't keep up or it's not for you or whatever. It absolutely is for you. We've got a chilled group that, so it's not about distance. This is all about time. We generally ride around about 2 hours, get back to the start venue and have a lekker braai. Food Lovers Market is a sponsor. They give us wors and rolls. And we've got Devil's Peak, and they give us beer. And we get on with a good braai afterwards, and you can chat to the icons. So Friday afternoon, the 1st in Mossel Bay. Saturday morning in George, for 2 hours, and Sunday morning in Plet at the Country Club. And all the details of the start venues and the finish are on that website, africanicons.org.za. And I just encourage anybody who wants to get out in the fresh air and have a good 2-hour ride, have a lekker braai afterwards, and chat to as we're building up to the World Cup, you can chat to Skara, chat to Brayton, chat to Nick Bester, and chew the fat. That's who we're about.
Sounds like a founder of the African Icons Invitational, MPC Rory Steyn. Rory, thanks for joining us on the show this morning and wishing you all the best with the event. And thanks for the lekker chat.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. Thank you. And have a lekker weekend, everybody, whether you're riding or not.
Algoa FM Breakfast is the business.